All right, hello everyone. I'm Lonnie with Untitled Nerd Network, brought to you by the fine folks at Infinity Flux and your local Satanist out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I have the distinct honor. I'm going to go ahead and let you know, sir, that you are probably my most anticipated interview I've ever done, and I've done many. Here with Mr. Brad Roberts from the Crash Test Dummies. Chances are, if you're a fan of our page, you know who these guys are. Canadian rock band, had numerous hits. God Shuffled His Feet was, I guess, your biggest album.
Absolutely.
Also, The Ghosts That Haunt Me, Give Yourself a Hand, Ooh La La, A Worm's Life, if you've heard any of those. Again, thank you for coming on. This is something, I want to get this out of the way. I didn't know, because you guys didn't do a whole lot of work together in recent years, and then you've started a North American tour, and I honestly never thought in my lifetime that I would be able to see you guys in concert. And not only am I gonna do that tonight, something I never thought I would do, but here I am face to face with you. Honestly, I'm sure you hear this a lot, but you were one of my probably my top musical idol of my life. Seriously, my mother passed away in 2014, and when I was younger, 10 years old or so, we actually happened upon your God Shuffled His Feet album, and it became one of her favorites. And of course, we listened to it in the car every day on the way to school and out on the road. We took a lot of road trips, and then we found out that you had a first album, The Ghosts That Haunt Me, so we started listening to it, and it had a very different sound. It seems like every one of your albums has a very distinct sound where you can listen to one song off of it and automatically tell, what album that is from. Was that by design, to have a different sound to every album?
It is by design, and it's gotten me in a little trouble because, fans often hear what they like the first time and expect it a second time, and when they don't get it, they're either very pleased or not so happy at all. Our first record was far more acoustic in general. It's also a record where we made it with a very small budget, with time constraints, in a studio that was hampered with technical difficulties. And when I listen to that record now, it's difficult for me not to hear all the bad notes and all the stuff on there that I would do over again. But when we put out our second record, you see, I should backtrack a little bit. Our first record, Ghosts That Haunt Me, came out and was very big in Canada, very big. It was several times platinum. But it only had a very small kind of culty following in America, and we had pockets of support here and there. On our second record, as you pointed out, had a very different sound, very different. And that was absolutely because I wanted to explore new musical territory. And so did the band, and we'd grown by then as well. We were listening to different music by then as well. Our tastes were evolving. There was I will tell you frankly, there was a severe backlash against Crash Test Dummies when we put out God Shuffled His Feet in Canada.
Really?
Nobody in the press wanted to hear that new record. They did not like the change of sound. And in my own hometown of Winnipeg, on the front page, they printed a scathing review that was basically, this is a band who sold out and let the record company tell them what to do because it sounds nothing like their first record. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth because I'd gone out of my way, even so far as to replace a musician. We had a new and much better drummer, Mitch Dorge, on that record. So that wasn't the case at all. But we were tarred and feathered with that brush. And then, Crash Test Dummies' career was just going to go right down the toilet at that point in 1993. But in America, oddly enough, in Atlanta, Georgia, there was a station. Oh, geez, it's embarrassing that I can't remember their call numbers right off the top of my head.
Oh my God, was it 99X?
Yes, 99X. And they were, the AAA station at that time, I guess.
Yeah, probably the hottest alternative station in the country at that point.
Yeah, and they played our song, and a whole bunch of people just started calling in and saying, who's the guy with that voice?
Yeah.
What is that voice? And when the record company saw that not only were we getting a lot of airplay with 99X, but that we were also selling records at the record store, because that doesn't always happen. Believe it or not, you can get airplay and people don't go buy your record. Well, people were going and buying the record in Atlanta. And so all of a sudden, the record company stood up, took notice, and every gig we played, there was a representative from the record label there all of a sudden, poking around, helping us out, seeing what's going on. My manager went from being, getting a lot of calls with the American label to being on the phone every day with Tom Ennis, our product manager, very special guy as well, that was very involved in launching that record. So really, the American audience saved us from the wrath of our own Canadian fans, or at least not our Canadian fans. That's wrong. Our Canadian media.
Yeah.
And there is a kind of phenomena in Canada where Canada just eats its own. It seems people do well, and then it's almost like you did too well, bang, and you're knocked back down again. And this, by the way, I can tell you, Dinah asked me another question, but
no, we're good.
Part of this story is that, okay, let me get this right. Gets played in Canada. It goes up and down the charts in a blip. Then it starts to go up in America. Canada, the Canadian media, the Canadian record, the radio industry, for lack of a better term, went ahead and they were like, we've got to have something to play by Crash Test Dummies. They're important again.
Yeah.
Please give us something, because they weren't going to play again. They had sent that into the toilet already, and it would be too embarrassing for them to have to turn around and change their minds. So we actually flew in from the middle of an American tour to shoot a video for a song called Swimming in Your Ocean, which became the second single in Canada. Is the only country in the world that serviced that single, or that serviced that video, or played the single. That was just a Canadian thing. And
it was the first time I ever saw that video was on YouTube just a couple of months ago. It was a very interesting video.
Which one was that?
Swimming in Your Ocean.
Oh, Swimming in Your Ocean, yeah. Yeah, that is that was kind of a kitschy period piece where I dress up in a purple suit.
Yeah, it looked straight out of the 80s. It looked like maybe the video to Never Gonna Give You Up or something. It had that look.
Well, you got to remember, it's a Canadian record company that we're directly signed to. So the budgets for our videos come from there. And the budget for all of our early videos, because they were all pretty early, look really, low budget, because they were. They do not look slick at all.
But especially like God Shuffled His Feet and they actually have a very unique look, like with puppets and stop motion and things like that. And I think that might be part of the reason those videos were so well received, in addition to the songs, is nobody else did anything like that.
Yeah, that was, for the most, Ellen Reed wrote almost every single video treatment we had.
Oh.
And of course, she's our keyboard player and, more importantly, our backup vocalist. And she, like I say, she came up with nearly all of our video concepts. The God Shoveled His Feet concept was brought by Kevin Much, and it also had puppets in it, but who's a close friend of mine, actually.
Right now.
What's that?
It's 4:45 right now.
Oh, okay.
How much time do we have?
We've been going about 10 minutes.
Okay.
I know I talk a lot, right? So, Ghosts That Haunt Me is a video with puppets in it. It was brought to us by Kevin Much, a good friend of mine. I asked him to bring us something. But for all the other videos, including Superman and And Alan Reed, our keyboard player, was the creative force behind that.
Cool, because as much as I studied y'all, I did not know that. I want to ask a couple of questions that me personally, I just have been dying to ask. The song "Swatting Flies," I've always wanted to ask, how autobiographical was that song?
Extremely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was pretty much straight by autobiography, which I don't often do. The story about the teacher, Miss Worms.
Uh-huh.
Did I mention in the song her name is Miss
No.
Worms? No, because that would have been too much of a stretch. But in fact, truth is stranger than fiction. And my first grade teacher was named Miss Worms. She was a born-again Christian, and she used to collect dead birds and stuff and preserve them, taxidermy. I don't know what the method is really called. I don't know the technical term, but she did this. She loved nature, a kind of a perverse love, I guess, in retrospect, because, you know, kids, she was always asking kids to bring in a body of a dead bird if they ever saw one, you know, and she had in our classroom, she had stuffed a cardinal, beautiful red cardinal, cedar waxwing. I mean, I know more about birds and the Old Testament from grade 1 than I remember learning anything else, because that's the other thing about Miss Worms, and this is the Miss Worms in the song, Swatting Flies. She, like I said, she was a born-again Christian, died very recently, and she would read to us, well, I remember she read a passage from Isaiah about how Isaiah had seen a seraphim, and the seraphim placed upon his lips a hot coal, and this made him purified in the eyes of the Lord. Now, this scared the hell out of all the kids, as you can imagine. And one of the kids came the next day and said, "My mommy said that that's just a fairy tale," and Miss Worms was not having it. She was like, "There are no fairy tales in this book. Everything in here happened for real, exactly the way they said it." And needless to say, this would not be tolerated in Canada at this point. I imagine that still kind of goes on in parts of the world, the hardcore born-again Christianity in some schools, but not in public schools in Canada anymore. She was a real exception to the rule. And by the way, I since looked up Isaiah, and it seems that he was probably referring, that the text there was probably referring to incense, which would have been part of the ritual that was used at that time, where burnt offerings were given unto the Lord, and that's pretty Old Testament stuff. So it may have been that he simply wafted a censer of incense by his face. I mean, dropping a big old hot coal on his lips somehow doesn't sound like a great way to, get someone converted to the Lord. In any case,
I want to, I'm a part of, a couple of Crash Test Dummies social groups, on social media. And the number one question is, when are you coming to our town? I know you guys have some more tour dates getting ready to announce even more. Mm-hmm. I know you're going to be down in Atlanta, and I didn't know y'all were going to be in Atlanta when I bought these tickets.
I'm sorry about that.
But I wasn't going to take a chance. I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to see these guys in concert.
Oh,
we're going to Charleston.
So,
but here we are, and so the top two questions are, number one, are you going to announce more tour dates? And I know you can't really say where.
Yeah. Well, I can't announce tour dates until the promoter says it's okay to announce tour dates.
But they're coming.
But we will be playing, I think it's a pretty good bet we'll be playing in British Columbia come summertime. I know that we have some American dates put up already on the site, I think, for the Atlanta gig would have been part of that run, right? In January.
I think like late February is about when I think.
Really? I think it's January.
You may be right.
But you might be right. Fans will have to check. It's on our website. We could probably find out right now. If you want to go to crashtestdummies.com, you can find out. It's January, yeah. Wayne, our tour manager here, is in the background and telling me, confirming I'm correct, that it is January.
Now,
By the way, Wayne, I'm happy to give a little extra time if I can, but I just want to make sure that I'm not affecting any deadlines. Yeah?
You just got to get back and get cleaned up, that's all.
Okay. Well, we can keep going. I know it's probably been 20 minutes.
Cool, okay.
But
Well, I
you
won't.
came a long way, and you're so well researched. And when I get somebody that has done such a good job preparing, I don't like to turn them away.
Look, I was just like I told everybody, if I could, and it wouldn't make you feel too comfortable, I would have just went like that.
You're very kind.
I just really, I mean, I know this is for our channel, for our Facebook page and our site and everything, and but more than anything, I'm a fan. You guys,
I can tell.
I asked her. I've been talking about you guys since the day we met, and it's. I absolutely love your work.
Okay.
I don't have a song that I do not like.
Really?
I do not.
I've even written some songs I don't like.
Really? Which one?
There's, my early songs, the songs on the first record. I can't say I really dislike any of them, but I'm not as proud of them as later lyrics. My earlier lyrics, again, were different, as you pointed out, with regards to the music. They changed a lot. I think the lyrics that I've written later on, like, for example, on the Ooh La La record, they're a little bit more straight up, a little less out in left field. But the earlier lyrics, I kind of went out of my way to avoid any of the cliches of love songs and the usual fare.
I want to ask, Demolitions. It was like a limited release. You could get it on your site. Honestly, that is probably my second favorite album.
Really? That's so crazy. Okay. First of all those songs were listened to by the record company, and they said, "Forget it. That's crap. We're not putting that out."
It's like a greatest hits album for me. And
secondly,
no, seriously.
Secondly, it was recorded in my bedroom in London when I was living in the UK, by me, and I am no engineer. Anyone will tell you. I barely understood that you had to get the level up into the, close to the red in order for it to be loud enough when you played it back.
Yeah.
I thought, I was so dumb, I thought, okay, this is a quiet part. I better not be too loud. And I'd get no level and then wonder why it sounded like crap. So what you're listening to there is the product of my ill-gotten labors. And it wasn't even mastered, that record. I mean, it is technically the worst thing we've ever done. I wasn't even sure if I should put it out.
Well, it actually has my favorite Ellen track on it, Satellites Pass Over.
Oh, that's my favorite Ellen track, too.
Really?
I wrote those lyrics. She wrote that music. That was the first time we'd ever collaborated on a song.
Is honest. That's seriously my favorite song of hers. And like I've been like in the Facebook page, just, can you please play Satellites Pass Over?
And the sounds in that, the clanging of the bell and the pad, the synthesizer pad, those were just crappy sounds that came with the keyboard that she just pulled up.
But it worked.
I know, it does work.
Like I would love, I don't even know, can you still get a physical copy of that? I don't think it's on your site.
At the show tonight.
Do we have them at the show tonight? Well, we'll get you one.
Okay, now since you've toss that olive branch over to me, I want to present you with something. I want to do this before we run out of time. I actually picked you guys up something, a little gift straight from Chattanooga.
Oh.
And I hope you enjoy. I don't know how many of you guys would partake, but we have a...
that will be a very welcome addition to our family.
It's
yes.
actually the second batch of Old Milford Bourbon by J.W. Kelly out of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Sorry. J.W. Kelly, apparently you're a very good man.
So I wanted you guys...
kind of you.
I wanted you guys to have that. I was thinking, you did a lot of, especially like when I go out with artists, singing about Scotch. And I was like, as much as that's mentioned, I'm sure if anybody gets you alcohol, Scotch is probably the number one thing. And I was like, I want to do something different, local. So I hope you guys enjoy.
We will. And funny thing.
Probably put that back in the bag.
Yeah.
For the brown bag laws locally.
Interestingly enough, I was a big single malt Scotch fan, and I wrote that song that included mentioning Glenfiddich, Glenlivet, the whole single malt family, as I put it in the lyric. And I kind of thought when our record went, 4 million copies sold, that someone would send us a case of Scotch, for God's sake. Never
Kinda what I was
happened.
thinking.
Never happened. And when we put out, I thought, this has got to be an easy commercial for Campbell's Soup, right? We should be getting 50 grand at least on the rights to that. Never happened.
Wow. I will say, like I said, I would be remiss not to mention my mother, because she's the one who got me into the band.
Yeah, because you're a pretty young fella for enjoying us.
I just turned 35.
Yeah, okay. Well, you look about 28.
Thank you. Thank you.
I, on the other hand, look even more than my age because I got this scrubby old beard going on. I didn't get cleaned up in time for our...
That's fine. When did you decide to cut your hair?
When I moved to England after God Shoveled His Feet in 1995, I quickly discovered that I was the only one with long hair in all of freaking England, except for a few old hippies. And I just kind of got tired of getting... I was tired of getting a certain kind of response from people because, frankly, I felt like a bit of a, like I was trying to draw attention to myself almost, because it was just so against the grain, and I cut it then.
I love the art on God Shuffled His Feet, where you guys are, imposed on paintings, your faces on them. Was that whose idea was that?
That was Kevin Much's idea, and he did I mentioned him earlier, he also did our Ghosts That Haunt Me video. He's an old friend of mine who went to art school. He's got a comic on the internet now called The Moon Prince, I think. Kevin Much. If you want to look him up.
The Moon Prince.
He does, he did the graphics for a number of Crash Test Dummies projects. I can't remember exactly which ones right now, but he even got a Juno Award for one of them, which is our Grammy Award up in Canada.
Oh, nice. Hey, can you pass me that magazine over here, Ashley, please? Okay.
So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. How
okay.
about that?
Cool. Well,
and then if you want to give any thought to what you want to cover in 5 minutes, besides this.
Okay. I wanted to talk about this. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No, I don't actually.
You don't know what this is?
We did have a relationship with Superman Comics. DC Comics actually did get involved with us after Superman became big, and just in Canada.
We'll do that off the air.
Oh, okay.
So while we didn't get any Scotch or any Campbell's Soup ads, we did get a lot of play with DC Comics.
Yeah, you guys had Superman song on your first album.
Yep.
And
that was our first single. That's what broke us in Canada.
Like barely a year later, Superman died in the comics. And
I'd forgotten that.
it had it breathed new life into the single. And so anyway, this magazine, I actually found this on Amazon. I knew it from way back when, but this is a magazine that it's presented almost like it was published in Metropolis, in the comic book world. And in here, you were quoted.
Oh, really?
Brad Roberts, lead singer of the Crash Test Dummies, author of Superman's song. And this is your quote. It's not too long. When Superman's song first started to get... You want to read this?
I can't remember what it even says. And your charming voice is too much for me to say no to. You go ahead and cover that yourself.
When Superman's song first started to get a lot of airplay, people asked, who is this Solomon Grundy character from whom Superman saved the world? I began to receive letters containing the wildest speculation on this matter. One particularly adventurous theorist suggested that Grundy was a symbol of miserable existential solitude, and Superman one of progressive Western humanism. The shamefully banal truth of the matter, however, was that I simply couldn't find anything else that rhymed with the word money, which appears in the first line just preceding Grundy's entrance, but I kept my mouth shut and bided my time as I waited for my first royalty check.
That certainly sounds like me. Sounds like I wrote it out in advance. Yes, all those things are true. It was a very big deal when Superman's song came out, and I suggested in the song that he'd fought Solomon Grundy. We all know this. You're just talking about it. Now, Solomon Grundy is a real character from the comic. He appeared once back, so when I used to get, I know I sound like an old man veering off and digressing, but when I went to the dentist, as I had to do to get my teeth cleaned every year, my mother would allow me to buy a comic book as a kind of present for going through it. And I bought Superman that year, that cleaning, and he fought Solomon Grundy in that issue. And Solomon Grundy was such a scary looking dude that at that age I found him, like I was scared of Solomon Grundy, okay? He made a strong impression on me. I had dreams about him and everything. But when the song came out, all of these people that write for newspapers started to squawk about how there was no such thing as Solomon Grundy, first of all, as a character, or that Solomon Grundy did exist, but that he certainly never fought Superman. I actually had to go and get the comic that I originally purchased when I was 8 years old out of storage, cold storage. I had it lying around, and those were the days of fax machines. So we faxed off, the comic to the disbelievers, and they were all eating crow the next day in their little local newspapers. It is unbelievable the extent to which people will go crazy over the stupidest freaking things.
I will say I'm a member of numerous comic book pages, like on Facebook and different places. And a few years back, I actually shared the video of you guys' song, Superman song, and there were, a lot of superheroes and stuff in there passing the funeral, like a funeral service for Superman.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, if you guys, I was sharing the love. I was like, if y'all love Superman, check out this band. And
Thank you
there was
for
somebody in the comments of that video who said, Superman never fought Solomon Grundy. And here we are.
Again.
So, yeah, and of course, on Facebook, people just piled on them. Well, how about this time? So, yeah,
That's
it's the same
very
thing.
interesting.
Very weird.
Still going on. Funny.
Yeah, it's years later. All right. Well,
by the way,
Yeah.
Before we close
Okay.
up, I didn't know that. That's an interesting new story for me, and it's nice. It's nice to meet people who are like out there in popular culture in a way that I see. I'm not that aware of what's going on in terms of like Crash Test Dummies fans in that world. So thanks for telling me that. That's a nice little story. I may have to use that on stage.
There is a fan base who is almost rabid.
Yes.
Seriously. They're wanting to know, because it's like me. I never expected to see you guys in concert.
Well, you mentioned that earlier, and that's something I've heard from people in every town that we've played in. One or two people have come up to me always and said, I really never thought you'd tour again, and we had pretty much packed it in. Some of the band members had families, and we were not able to pay for touring anymore. I mean, we just weren't getting great offers.
Yeah.
And I tried to tour as Brad Roberts of Crash Test Dummies, and I did acoustic shows. And those shows are really strong, great shows. In fact, we keep an acoustic element in our live set because of those shows.
Yeah, there's actually your Crash Test Dude album.
Yes, and that was the first time I started doing that. But I was doing that, and at that time, though, I did have. Well, no, that would have been when we had just left BMG, so there was no more tour support. Anyways, when the 25th anniversary of this record rolled around, oddly enough, BMG put out a vinyl version of it. Just at the same time, I was thinking, I wonder if we could tour on the strength of a reunion tour based on the release of that record. And I called my agent, and he said, I could keep you on the road for 18 months with that kind of a tour. So we practiced every single song on God Shuffled His Feet and put it in the set. And boom, here we are back out again. I never thought that we would be playing again like this.
You still have those vinyls available, right?
Vitals?
The vinyl records from God Shuffled His Feet.
Yes, those records we are selling at the shows, and
Okay,
I guess
make
they're at
sure.
retail as well.
Okay.
They're reissues of God Shuffled His Feet.
Okay. Y'all doing meet and greets after the show?
Yes, we do. We do every night. We go out and sign merchandise and say hello to people, and we do pictures after we've only after we've collected everybody's money, we do pictures. Otherwise, the lineup just takes forever.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll be seeing you guys tonight. Yeah, you've got several more shows over the next few months. Y'all are taking a break for Christmas, roundabout, right?
Yeah, we finish on December 9th, and then we come back out in January.
Okay, that's going to be awesome. Like I said, I'm super looking forward to the show tonight. This actually isn't probably going to air until late tonight after the show. So,
Okay.
But
And if you have any plans to come to the any of the other shows in January, like were you mentioning Atlanta maybe? You know, we could get you on the guest list for that if you want to come to that. So don't buy any tickets.
You've got my email, just send it.
yeah, okay, cool.
And thank you for such an informed, thoughtful, well-researched interview. I don't get these often.
I was going to say, I didn't research. It was all up here.
Okay, well, then
It's always
real
nice.
life research.
I love it when I don't have to research. I'm just enough of a fan to where I can just carry it. I'm again, words can't express the thanks that I feel for you coming on here because it's amazing. It
Thank
is
you so much.
So anyway, thank you for coming on.
All right.
Again, Brad Roberts of Crash Test Dummies.
Brad, who would look a lot better if he shaved, probably.
You got it going on.
When you play this back, you'll notice that I bark every now and then. You might have to deal with the levels on that.
That's fine. I'm good. Anyway, I'm Lonnie with Untitled Nerd Network, brought to you by both Infinity Flux out of Hickson, Tennessee, and your local Satanist out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And this has been our awesome Never Thought We'd Do It interview with Crash Test Dummies frontman Brad Roberts. Thanks for watching. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you.